What if I told you that there was an NHL goalie with a truly unique style? From amazing glove saves to his intriguing pregame routine, Miikka Kiprusoff was truly one of the greatest goalies in NHL history, and his highlights are honestly some of the best on YouTube. But how did he develop this style that allowed him to shut out everyone and lead his team to the Stanley Cup Finals? Well, most goalies spend hours every day working on their saves. They practice stopping pucks from every angle, work with goalie coaches, and do drill after drill to get better. Kiprusoff, a Finnish goalie, had his own approach. While other goalies focused on specific drills, Miikka often stood in net, letting his teammates shoot at him in game-like situations, relying on pure reaction and instinct. This method helped him become one of the most dominant goalies the NHL has ever seen. His save percentage was impressive, his shutout numbers were incredible, and he played a huge role in carrying the Calgary Flames to the Stanley Cup Finals in 2004. Miikka was born in the Finnish town of Turku, where hockey runs deep in the culture. His father, Hannu Kiprusoff, was a professional hockey player who played as a defenseman. Growing up, Miikka spent countless hours alone on frozen outdoor rinks. "I went out there for 3 or 4 hours just going in, stopping pucks, doing my own thing," he once reflected. This time alone was crucial in developing his instincts and mental game. His ability to read shooters and react quickly was key. "I'm on the ice by myself, reading the shooter's eyes, seeing where the puck's going. I try different positions because I know I might need that crazy save in a game," Miikka explained. While many Finnish goalies trained with butterfly drills and coaches emphasizing technique, Miikka's style was shaped by a mix of natural talent, hard work, and his own instincts. He was ready for big challenges early on. When playing for TPS Turku in the Finnish league, he faced some of the best shooters in Finland and impressed scouts with his fearless and dynamic style, even if it was considered risky by some. This was just the start of Miikka's problems though, because the NHL scouts who had watched him play in Finland weren't impressed with his unconventional style. The San Jose Sharks, who needed goalies badly, waited until the 5th round of the 1995 draft to pick him, 116th overall. Most teams thought he was too weird, too risky, and too different from what NHL goalies were supposed to look like. Miikka, realizing that his professional career would likely be spent riding the bench in the minor leagues, was sent to play for the Kentucky Thoroughblades in the AHL. Yet, the American coaches who were supposed to develop him had other plans. They wanted to completely change everything about his game. Coach after coach would try to force Miikka to do traditional goalie drills. They made him practice butterfly slides, work on his positioning, and do the same save techniques that every other goalie was doing. "They kept telling me I was doing it wrong," Miikka would later say, "but I knew this was how I played best." The coaches didn't care. They thought his Finnish style was garbage. However, things got even worse when San Jose called him up to the NHS. Despite making some incredible saves, the Sharks would ultimately send him back down to the minors. This happened 3 different times. Miikka was devastated each time, wondering if he'd ever get a real chance to prove himself. In 2003, in a trade that nobody cared about, Miikka Kiprusoff was sent to the Calgary Flames for basically nothing, just a 2nd-round pick that might never even make the NHLs. While most people would have been crushed by getting traded for so little, Miikka saw it differently. Calgary was giving him something San Jose never did, a real opportunity to be their starting goalie. And luckily for the Finnish goalie, Calgary had a coach who would change his life forever. Daryl Sutter, the head coach of the Calgary Flames, had been watching Miikka's highlights from the AHL and saw something special. Unlike every other coach who tried to change Miikka's style, Sutter told him something incredible before his first practice. "I don't care how you stop the puck, as long as you stop it." Without pressure to change his weird techniques and with a coach who actually believed in his abilities, Miikka would make his Calgary debut on November 11th, 2003. And what happened next shocked not only Flames fans, but the entire hockey world. The Finnish goalie didn't just win his first game, he got a shutout, stopping all 25 shots he faced against the Detroit Red Wings. As the game ended, reporters rushed to ask Flames players about their new goalie. "Who is this Finnish guy?" one journalist asked. Even his own teammates didn't know much about him. But after that first shutout, everyone wanted to know more about Miikka Kiprusoff, and his weird pregame routine became legendary around Calgary. While other goalies would stretch and do practice shots, the Kamele would sit alone in a corner of the locker room, completely still, with his eyes closed. He wouldn't talk to anyone for 30 minutes before each game. Teammates thought he was sleeping, but he was actually visualizing the game in his mind, seeing every possible shot that could come his way. The stats that followed were absolutely insane. In his first month with Calgary, Miikka had a save percentage well above .920, which made other NHL goalies take notice. He was stopping shots that should have been goals, and he was doing it with techniques that reflected his unique style and instincts. Calgary fans, who hadn't seen good goaltending in years, immediately fell in love with this quiet Finnish guy who played like no one else. As the 2003 to 2004 season continued, Miikka was absolutely dominating everyone with his unconventional style of goaltending. Many of his saves looked different from what other goalies did, and Kiprusoff's hockey philosophy was helping his Flames reach new heights. I tell everybody I'd rather stop 40 shots than 20 shots a game, you know. Just as long as I see my team is happy, then I'll be happy. And while it did take his teammates some time to get used to playing with someone who moved so differently in net, sometimes it looked like magic. You know, the other night he made a save on me in practice, and I really didn't see how he did it. The puck just disappeared. I was asking, how did you do that? And you've been playing with Dominik Hasek before. You don't have an answer for me. Everyone eventually got used to Miikka's strange style of play, and Calgary was finally winning games consistently. Not only was Kiprusoff becoming the clear #1 goalie, but he was breaking records that no Finnish goalie had ever touched in the NHL. His 1.69 goals against average was one of the best in the league that season, and historically low for a first full NHL season. But it wasn't just his play that was making him famous. The highlight videos of his saves were spreading all over the internet, and hockey fans couldn't believe what they were seeing. Miikka would make glove saves while falling backwards, kick saves with his legs in impossible positions, and stick saves that looked like pure luck but happened way too often to be accidents. While other star players loved talking to reporters, Miikka would give one-word answers and walk away. Journalists started calling him the silent Finn. He doesn't need to talk, said Flames captain Jarome Iginla. His saves do all the talking. What made other goalies really take notice was that Miikka was doing all of this with a focus on instinct and reaction. When reporters asked him about his training routine, he would say, "In games, you need to just react." This approach was different from many goalie coaches' methods, but nobody could argue with his results. Other NHL goalies started trying to copy parts of his style, especially his glove hand technique and the way he used his stick, but none of them could make it work like Miikka did. It was like trying to copy someone's natural talent. It just looked forced and awkward. Hockey experts started comparing him to great European goalies like Dominik Hasek and Arturs Irbe, but even they admitted that Miikka was different. Hasek was crazy and unpredictable, said one NHL analyst. But Kiprusoff is like a computer that calculated the perfect weird way to stop every shot. Thanks to Miikka's incredible goaltending, Calgary made the playoffs for the first time in 8 years. The city was going absolutely nuts. Flames fans had been waiting so long for a goalie who could steal games, and now they had one who was stealing every game. However, as Miikka's success grew bigger, so did the challenges he faced. Because now, he wasn't just stopping shots from average NHL players. He was going up against the absolute best shooters in the world. Players like Joe Sakic and Jarome Iginla, who could score from anywhere on the ice, started testing Miikka's style to find weaknesses. These weren't just regular NHL games anymore. Every shot was a battle between the best shooter and one of the best goalies. The playoff pressure was insane. In the Stanley Cup playoffs, every single save matters, and one mistake can end your team's season. Miikka had never experienced pressure like this before. The entire city of Calgary was counting on him, and millions of people were watching his every move. And there was another problem. Instead of traditional injuries, Miikka's unorthodox style put stress on parts of his body that weren't used to it. His hip flexors were constantly sore from his unique positioning, and his glove hand was getting beat up from making saves that other goalies wouldn't even attempt. When Calgary traded away some of his favorite defensemen, Miikka had to adjust to playing with new guys who didn't understand how he liked to play. His save percentage dropped from .933 to .923, which was still great, but not the superhuman numbers he'd been putting up. Learning to handle being the main guy was the biggest challenge of all. Stats started showing his few weaknesses too. While Miikka was incredible at stopping most shots, he struggled with quick shots right after big saves. His rebound control, because of his unorthodox style, sometimes left juicy rebounds for opposing players. And against teams that shot a lot from the point, his weird positioning sometimes left him out of place for deflections. On April 7th, 2004, Calgary, thanks to the incredible play of their Finnish goalie Miikka Kiprusoff, had entered the Stanley Cup playoffs as the 6th seed. Nobody, and I mean nobody, gave them a chance to make it past the first round. The hockey experts all said the same thing. Calgary's goalie is good, but he's never been tested in real playoff hockey. Well, in the first round against the Vancouver Canucks, a team that had scored over 250 goals during the regular season, Miikka was like a brick wall. Game 1, 32 saves, shutout. Game 3, 41 saves, overtime win. Game 6, 38 saves, series clincher. But this was just the beginning. In the second round against the Detroit Red Wings, a team with future Hall of Famers like Steve Yzerman and Brendan Shanahan, Miikka put on a goaltending clinic. Game 4 was the most incredible performance anyone had ever seen. Detroit peppered him with 48 shots, including breakaways, 2-on-1s, and point-blank chances. Miikka stopped every single one. After the game, Red Wings coach Dave Lewis said, "I've never seen goaltending like that in 30 years of hockey." The Western Conference Finals against the San Jose Sharks, the team that had given up on him, was personal for Miikka. In Game 5, with Calgary facing elimination, Miikka made a save where he somehow got his glove on a shot while falling backwards and sliding across the crease. His calm attitude during these massive games was legendary. "The bigger the game, the more relaxed he gets," said his teammate Craig Conroy. "It's like pressure makes him better." The Calgary defense was playing out of their minds in front of him too. Guys like Robin Regier and Jordan Leopold were blocking shots with their faces and throwing their bodies in front of anything that came near Miikka. When Calgary beat San Jose in 6 games to make the Stanley Cup Finals, the city went absolutely crazy. Fans were literally crying in the streets, and it was all because of a weird Finnish goalie who refused to practice saves. The Stanley Cup Finals against the Tampa Bay Lightning was the biggest stage in hockey. Game 1, Miikka stops 32 shots. Calgary wins 4-1. Game 2, another 30-save performance. Calgary takes a 2-0 series lead. The hockey world was shocked. Tampa Bay had players like Martin St. Louis and Brad Richards, elite scorers who were supposed to light up any goalie, but Miikka was making them look like junior players. Game 6, with Calgary 1 win away from the Stanley Cup, was the most heartbreaking game in franchise history. Miikka played incredible, stopping 33 shots and keeping Calgary in the game until the final minutes. But Tampa Bay scored with 1:18 left to win 3-2 and force Game 7. Game 7 was a battle. Miikka made 28 saves, but Tampa Bay's goalie was just as good. Calgary lost 2-1 and their Stanley Cup dream was over. "We came close," was all he said to reporters. Even though Calgary didn't win the Stanley Cup, Miikka's individual recognition was incredible. By 2008, the years of playing in positions that no goalie coach would ever teach were catching up to him. His hip problems were getting worse, and his weird leg movements were causing chronic pain that wouldn't go away. Younger goalies like Jonathan Quick and Tuukka Rask were coming into the league with more traditional techniques, and NHL teams were starting to prefer their safer styles over Miikka's risky approach. Calgary, looking to get younger and faster, started giving more games to their backup goalies. Miikka, who had been the undisputed number 1 for years, was suddenly splitting time with players who weren't half as talented as him. It was clear that his time as an elite NHL goalie was ending. In 2010, Miikka made a decision that surprised everyone. He was going back to Finland. While he could have signed with another NHL team and played a few more years as a backup, he wanted to finish his career on his own terms. "I want to play in front of my family and friends," he told Finnish reporters. "This is where I learned to play, and this is where I want to end." His final games in the Finnish league were emotional. Fans who remembered watching him as a young player came to see him play one last time. He was older, slower, and couldn't make the impossible saves anymore, but he was still Miikka Kiprusoff. When he finally retired in 2013, there was no big ceremony, no retirement tour, no speeches. Just like everything else in his career, Miikka's retirement was quiet and private. He simply stopped playing and went home to his family. Young Finnish goalies started copying his mental approach, even if they couldn't copy his weird techniques. Hockey schools in Finland began teaching kids that the mental side of goaltending was just as important as the physical skills. And whenever a young Finnish goalie makes it to the NHL, reporters always ask if they learned anything from watching Miikka Kiprusoff. Miikka Kiprusoff was truly one of the greatest goalies to ever step foot onto an NHL rink. Watching him play, especially during his time with the Flames, it almost seemed like he physically couldn't make a normal save. And while part of his approach was just natural talent, the real truth is that his no-practice method actually made perfect sense. By never practicing specific saves, his reactions stayed completely natural and unpredictable. His mental game was way more important than any physical drill could ever be. While other goalies were training their bodies to move in certain ways, Miikka was training his mind to see the game differently. And that's what made him special. He thought about hockey in a way that nobody else did. His legacy in Finnish and NHL hockey is undeniable. He proved that you don't have to follow the traditional path to be great, and he inspired a whole generation of Finnish goalies to trust their instincts over their coaches. By the way, let me know what you think below. Does Miikka Kiprusoff deserve to be in the top 10 goalies of all time? I honestly think he does, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if this video taught you something new about one of hockey's most unique players, please hit that like button and subscribe. These videos take countless hours of research and editing to bring you these incredible stories that most people never hear about. Your support means everything and helps me keep telling the stories of the athletes who changed their sports forever.